I guess now's as good a time as any to get ready. I gotta figure out how to get captions actually on the stream. Is there any way for me to get this actually on the stream? Oh, caption when... No, you know what? I'll figure it out. Streams and local recordings. Local recordings? Nah, I have no clue, but I'll figure it out eventually. I have no clue how to get the actual captions on here, so I'll do that maybe later. Hello, good afternoon. Apparently I spelled it Savegi instead of Savage Orcs, so we're gonna change that. Yep, I ended up having to take a day because of just overwhelming fatigue. But yeah, that just means I'm here early to stream, and I've gotten some more work done on my orcs. Right now, I've got them looking like this. I finished painting all of their skin, and now I'm working on painting their accessories, and then I can give them all a wash and do some more fun detail work, I guess. So that's what they look like now. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to have a shorter stream because I have dinner to cook at around 5:30. So this one's only going to last maybe about an hour or so. Let's make sure that everything is lined up the way it should be. Yeah, that feels appropriate. I forgot to hit all this with a brown, because eventually this is going to get another wash in another color. But for now, a general brown base is going to look fine. And I gotta say, this piece is so just barely on. And I can't say I'm overly fond with how this thing is fitted. Hey Red, how's it going? Good evening. I'm honestly surprised that Games Workshop would create a piece that is so poorly attached to the mini right here. Because I think the only thing holding this together is a wish and a prayer and like a little dot of plastic cement. Actually, how loud is the oh, there is no sound. Sorry, stuck on an ad. That's fine. Why am I not getting any music? One moment, please. Audio input capture. No, that's correct. Epidemic sound. Ah, that's why. We're gonna go to epidemic sound, and that should do it. There we go. I was wondering why there was no music, but now we're good to go. Yeah, I hate the pre-roll ads. I'm not making any money off of this, and I understand that they need to make their money so that they can have the bandwidth space or whatever paid off, but I want my ads off. I just want people to be able to hop in, say hi, and then watch me do a job painting these things. I need some more brown. Okay, where'd they go? Where'd the brown? There'd the brown go. But yeah, just trying to get these to look relatively close to old Games Workshop style, where they have the really bright, vibrant colors, bright highlights, all that fun stuff. Hopefully when I'm done with them, they'll all have that really good look about them. And yeah, that's the whole point, is just getting these guys up to par. So how have you been? How are things going? I was unable to go to work today due to very heavy fatigue, so I decided to take a day and recover, especially since it was a relatively easy day for whoever was going to sub for me based on my classes. And lo and behold, it was an easy day. They apparently had a perfectly fine time, because I still can talk to my co-teacher via text, and apparently the kids actually liked the assignment I gave them today, which is nice, because usually it's a struggle to get them to even do it. Not too bad? Well, that's good to know. Yeah, there we go. This doesn't have to be perfect, because it's all going to get a very heavy wash later. What I forgot to do is paint their loincloths and bones and shit. That's what needs to be done on these guys. I need to paint their little scrungly bits. But yeah, I didn't realize it at the time, but when I was looking through the models that the anonymous benefactor was offering me, he had a Grom the Paunch mini, and I didn't know what it was at the time, but when I started looking it up online, I realized that that's a really, really freaking cool mini, and I'm kind of sad I wasn't able to get it. I think at this point he's either sold them or donated them to a Goodwill or something, but I would have loved to have that Grom the Paunch. I didn't realize how expensive Grom the Paunch had gotten. If you look at them online, selling on eBay and the like, you can see that Grom the Paunch is worth several $100s. And I kind of wish I had convinced him to let me have it, because at the time I had no money to pay for anything, and I still kind of don't, and so he just donated these to me. But I would have loved to have done an amazing paint job on Mr. Goblin Warlord Grom the Paunch, because that was just a cool looking mini. And the cheapest one I can find on eBay is already painted, and it's like $60 with shipping for a mini that's half the size of my thumb. And while I'd love to have that mini, I don't want to spend $60 on something that small, even if it is a collectible. So I'm just going to chalk it up to wrong place, wrong time. Though honestly, I have considered asking, be like, hey, do you still have that Grom the Paunch mini? Because if you do, you should either give it to me and I'll pay you for it. Probably not as much as it's worth, because I can't afford that. Or you should sell it on eBay, where you'll get a lot of money off it. And he'll probably choose to sell it on eBay if he hasn't gotten rid of it already, but at the very least, I can help him get his money's worth. I don't know, you've been playing Warhammer for forever. Do you remember Grom the Paunch? I think that's his name. He's the pot-bellied troll HQ unit from Warhammer Fantasy. And they did a version, you wish you kept your old models? I know, right? It's kind of the worst. And it's one of the big complaints I keep hearing from people who got out of the hobby and sold their models. Is like, man, I wish I still had my models. So even though some of mine might come and go that I'm not as in love with, I am definitely going to try and hold on to as many as I can. Never played Oldhammer? That's fair. I'm really tickled by how many people are upset that it went away, which is fair because it did have a very loyal fan base, but the numbers apparently didn't work in its favor and it was not selling well. But at the same time, from what I understand, that people were more upset at how Games Workshop got rid of it more than that they got rid of it, because it was a very rapid phase out of the old world of Oldhammer. And so that was the problem. Of course, all I can do is read what people say on the internet, which is a very limited view of exactly what was going on. But yeah, Age of Sigmar allowed them to copyright a whole ton of stuff with new proper names and the like, so I guess that's a victory on Games Workshop's part, because now they have proprietary things. But, you know, watching people burn some of their old armies, like there's a famous video on YouTube of a guy burning his Wood Elf army in protest of the old world going down, and it's just like, man, that's a lot of emotion to have for a game. I don't think I could do that. Hey, K-Former. How's my favorite American English teacher? I couldn't go to work today because of severe fatigue. I almost fell down the stairs when I was trying to go downstairs and eat breakfast, so I decided to stay home. Had my old Cassigan squad, cost me £20 on eBay. Now it's going, or cost me £20 now, going for $70 on eBay. Yeah, exactly. A lot of the old models are still really big deals for collectors. So it's unfortunate that they're so hard to purchase now. Today was the first time you fired gun. How'd that feel? How was firing a gun? What kind of gun? Where'd you fire it? What caliber? All that fun stuff. It's been a while since I've shot any of mine, which I feel strange admitting. My hand was shaking like crazy. Yeah, that'll happen. There's definitely a bit of adrenaline dump when you first shoot a gun. It was a CZ75 9x19 Luger. It's my service firearm. Very cool. Yep, I don't have a CZ. I wanted a CZ for a long time because I heard they were just such darn good handguns. But I ended up getting a Beretta 9mm because that was the gun from Resident Evil. The Samurai Edge, I think they call it now, because they can't call it a Beretta anymore. I don't know. It's definitely a weird feeling until you get used to it. But yeah, I was super stoked to own the Resident Evil gun, though that's not what I was calling it when I got it, because that would be weird. I still have it in a gun purse, I guess, a gun satchel, that is stowed away in my bedroom, where only I can get to it. You were scared? I mean, yeah, it creates a hell of a kick, it makes a loud noise. You know that there's death on the other end. Takes a lot to admit that there is some fear in there. But like I said, repetition will breed familiarity. Yeah, for 9s don't kick too terribly. I own a Mosin Nagant, which is, you know, the service rifle for the Russian military up until World War II. And I got it as Army surplus because once, you know, only fired one rifle, 5.56 SA-80 when I was at the TA. I mean, that is still a really nice gun to have on your record. I had a friend whose father was a professor at the college I went to, and he was an avid gun collector, so I fired quite a few of them. Though to be honest, I was so excited and there was so much adrenaline happening that they all kind of felt the same after a while. Next gun you fire will be a Scorpion Evo. I actually don't know which one that is. I kind of fell out of interest with firearms once I left college and realized it was an expensive hobby to keep up with. And, you know, all the school shootings. That made me far less interested in them. The SA-80 was a pile of junk. I'm sorry to hear that. I don't know. I've become decreasingly interested in firearms as I've gotten older, and I think it's because the novelty of them has worn off since I've owned them for over a decade now, and the ones I have are you know, pretty typical. And shooting other ones hasn't suddenly brought back the ooh cool, because it's like it gun. They all gun. So I'm glad that you're having fun with it. That's what really matters, is that you are enjoying yourself and getting to learn. You serve, so you have to learn it. Exactly. Yeah. I fell out of it. So, I forgot that you were in the, I'm assuming it's the military. Because I don't remember much of anything anymore. I spent like the last part of August basically was it August? Yeah, the last month of August basically passing out at the table. So a lot of my memory has become very spotty. Standard British Army rifle, prone to rust and really hard to clean. Wow, that does not sound like a whole lot of fun. It's like the opposite of all the guns that I own. They're all modestly good firearms for as cheap as I could get them. Because I was a college student who was buying these guns by literally donating parts of my body. I was donating plasma, which could net you quite a bit of money in the States, but then I was using it to spend on hobby shit. So at one point I had like 3/4 of a set of plate armor because I was doing a lot of medieval reenactment stuff. I had 4 firearms. Sounds very British, not gonna lie. That is true. Everything with the British has to cause extra hardship so that they can show how much more stoic they are, I guess. I don't know if that's actually the stereotype. But that always seemed like a thing, based on the comedy and whatnot that would come out of Britain. Okay, come on. I'm gonna try and paint these teeth with this brown so that when I shade up to a bone color, they're not gonna have this like weird white spots where I really couldn't reach it. Hopefully, this will all show up okay. But yeah, no, it's been fairly uneventful. I kind of had a realization earlier in the year that I don't want to do my job anymore, and I'd rather do a lot of other things, so I'm kind of looking for a way to transition away from being teacher to being something else that would utilize some of my skills. And I'm just having all sorts of fatigue happening now, but that's all fine. I'm not the only one. This has been an incredibly tough year for our faculty, which is a little strange, but I get it. For a while, I felt like everyone was suffering except for me because I was just generally happy with how things were going, and I had a pretty good setup going on at work. But then this year, things just feel different, and I don't really know how else to explain it, but everything just feels much, much worse. And it's killed my interest in keeping with the job. Old age? Possibly. I mean, I'm only 36, so I'm not old yet. I'm not getting there. And I still feel pretty healthy. But yeah, I'm hitting that point where I'm like, I don't want to do this no more. I want to do something else. And that's kind of where I am with the job. So hopefully, I've applied at a couple different places to be things like copy editors and whatnot, and hopefully I'll find something that will allow me to transition gracefully into being a productive member of society elsewhere. If I finish prison guard training with good grades, I have a chance to become a lieutenant right away. Fantastic. Yeah, I'm still very young. I feel it. I mean, part of my... I don't heal as quickly as I used to with certain things, but in general, I feel pretty good. Especially because I had that scare last year with my heart that turned out to be freaking asthma of all things. But it definitely made me realize that I don't want to have to deal with that until I'm much, much older. So, you really want that gold star? I get it. I definitely get it. Anything that helps advance your career quicker is definitely a good thing. But yeah, I kind of had that realization that I don't want to have to deal with heart problems yet. And I don't want to have to feel like moving is suffering. So, I started eating healthier, and I've continued to try and exercise and all that other fun stuff, and so hopefully that will pay dividends as I get older. Because, especially according to my wife, I was already eating healthy, and now I'm just kind of taking it to an extreme. But who knows? In the meantime, I'm just going to paint little army men, make them fight each other. Right now you have 2 silver stars, but that's not as cool as 1 gold star. That is fair. Gold stars always mean something, no matter what you're doing. I'm just going to use the big sloppy brush for this because it is a huge stabba, and there's no need to be precious with it, I would guess. Oh, you're not even in focus. I forgot that's what you were doing. You are prison guard. That was a job I briefly considered doing. We have to salute the gold star people? Yep. They've got more prestige because they've earned it. That's what the ranks are for. To show that this person has done more than you, is more qualified than you, has been here longer than you, all that fun stuff. I want people to salute to me. That's fair. Yeah, it is nice to have that kind of respect that people can't deny. Or at the very least are not supposed to deny. That is definitely a big part of validation. I'll be honest, I got real tired of kids forgetting my name. So, I'm fine with doing literally anything right now. Right, actually, to be honest right now, I just want to make sure I can get these guys painted okay. I want to do them justice after that gentleman donated them to me. Because these are really cool models. Plus, I'll have a higher rank than your girlfriend's father, and that would be hilarious. That would be very funny, but I guess given that he is your girlfriend's father, he will always be able to pull rank on you there. Just not at work. I don't know. I have a certain fear of people older than me in those ways. I had a friend in college who was the one who taught me, like, the medieval reenactment stuff, and he got so frustrated because I would not stop calling him sir. He was like, Ben repaints. We're friends. I've helped you a lot and taught you how to do thing, and you've hung out with me. You don't have to call me sir anymore. Just call me my name. I went, oh, sorry, sir. And then he'd glare at me. But, you know, when you're taught at a young age to respect your elders and you got a military dad, that tends to happen. You have to call him by his name, too? Yeah, fair. Let's see. I guess I can go back over this with the brown after I finish kind of blocking in this black. Because this black is eventually going to get a dry brush of a metallic over it, I believe. And that should even out some of these colors on it. But right now I'm playing with fire by painting with this huge... After 6 years, it's still uncomfortable. Yeah, I can't do it. I struggle. Let's see. The only person I've really been able to do that with is my current buddy, Soft Servo. Because he's like 4 years older than me. But now the age gap feels a whole lot less since we're both in our 30s. Okay, how can I hit this thing without hitting the other things? That's how. I'll just have to clean this up later. Because right now I'm just going in with a gross paint job, and then I'll make it look better later. I think that's going to be the plan. Yes, yes, yes. This can go over here to signify he's in the done pile. This one can go on here. And I think with this one, I'm going to go back to using the smaller... Neither of them have hair. Yeah, neither of them have hair. Perfect. Don't worry, you'll get used to it. It's just one of those things, as you get older, you'll get used to slowly becoming a senior member. That happened to me. I came into my job completely, like, terrified and wide-eyed, even though I was in my early mid-20s, because it was my first real job. So, everyone was yes sir, no sir. And they still are, just because it's the polite thing to do. But over the years, I've slowly accidentally become one of the senior-most members of the English department that I work at. And it's like, oh, a lot of you people are younger than me. That's weird. Stop doing that. Be older. But, you know, just part of getting older. Imagine trying to give orders to your future father-in-law. Well, you are sir now. Yeah. I don't think I could do it. My current father-in-law is like a manager for Caterpillar, the heavy machinery company, the construction company, whatever you want to call it. And he was like former Air Force and a whole bunch of other things. I couldn't give him orders if I wanted to. Mainly because he's like 6'3" and he could just pick me up and put me high up on a shelf and never talk to me again if he really wanted to, but that would just feel weird. But yeah, I guess it would be more of a, hey, do thing for me, please. Because that definitely happened a few times when I was working for my dad. Even though he did have older individuals working for him, they were definitely lower on the totem pole because they just didn't have the brains for the job. Which I feel bad saying, because they were perfectly nice people. But they realized very quickly that I was learning what I was supposed to be doing fast, and so they started deferring to me whenever I'd want to make a judgment. And that in itself was weird. Because, you know, you're in your early 20s, ordering around people who are like twice your age. And they're just like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever you say. Because they realize you have a better handle on what's going on than they do. Orcs, they're getting closer. But I'm just gonna batch paint them for now, because this is so much easier. I have a couple of projects that are being printed right now that are probably going to become a detour job for me to do before I get back to the Orcs, and then eventually back to the Custodes, and then eventually back to the Escher gang that I have. I can't say thank you and please to prisoners. I think I would. Is there any particular? Have they told you why? I mean, I can kind of guess why, but I'd love to hear the official reason why they don't want you doing that. Because that, I mean, that seems kind of dehumanizing, but at the same time, there's got to be like a policy reason why they've made that a thing, right? Because that's one of the few things I make sure to do with my students, because even though they're all like 14, 15 years old, I still want to treat them with some dignity, so I always say thank you and please. In my language, saying please... Okay. So, yeah, it implies that there's an option there, right? So with them, you've kind of just got to be like, hey, do thing. If you try and say please, then there's an implication that they can refuse. That definitely makes sense. And as a prison guard, you're not asking them, you're telling them, right? Yeah, you order them, you don't ask them. And so no please, no thanks. Because thanks implies gratitude that they did it, when it's something that they should naturally do because you are the one in charge. Okay, that's fair. And I guess after a while, most prisoners come to understand that it's just part of the prison thing. It's, you know, they obviously hecked up, that's why they're there. And so they're not expecting to be treated with any more dignity than that. Or with that degree of respect, because they've clearly lost it by being incarcerated. I don't know. That's starting to get into things that I have zero knowledge about, and I don't want to talk about like I have any sense. It still feels wrong. Well, yeah, I mean, all your life you've been trained to treat people with dignity and with respect. And you're clearly not if you're just telling them and not expressing gratitude for the things they're doing. But at the same time, you don't want to give them a chance to try and wrest power back in that way, right? Even if it is a very minor thing, it still sets a precedent. Like, yeah, respecting their human rights, definitely. You're not treating them like cattle or anything. But that other thing, like where I, you know, being a high school teacher, I have assigned seats at the beginning of the year. And the assigned seats are specifically there to show them that this is my room and you're going to sit where I tell you to sit, and there's not going to be a fight over it. And it's also an excuse for me to learn their names because it's alphabetized. But at the same time, it's a very subtle show of my room, my rules. You don't get to choose this specific thing. Okay, so everything is obsidian now, but that's just because I want it to be deeply dark coated so that when it gets its kind of gray and the metallic look on it. Well, in this case, it doesn't even look like it's beaten steel. So I'm probably going to make it rock? Flint? Napped? I don't know what to call it. I think I'm going to do that, but I'm not sure yet. I'm eventually going to go back and repaint the bone color to make it more bone, less brown. But the brown was just kind of a... Oh man, that's also brown. It was just kind of to give it a base color that wasn't a black shadow. So yeah, I can definitely... And that's also... I thought those were scales when I first saw them. Like I said, I can understand why the policy is in place. It had to come about because something bad happened, right? Most policies get enacted because something else happened that made them necessary. Even if it doesn't quite feel right to do. Okay. But that being said, have you guys seen the new Horus Heresy Traitor Legion console champion, or whatever they called him? Champion console? The hardest part of prison, we have prisoners that in the process of judging, not full prisoners by law, so technically they're not guilty yet. Yeah, and clearly there are issues there too, but I mean, the prison system in general has some issues. I'm not going to be one to really comment heavily on it, because again, it's not my area of expertise. I don't work in the prison system and I don't deal with it, so I don't know much about it. But yeah, I guess today was Horus Heresy Thursday, and they released a new unit, and they gotta stop doing that because I don't have any money. Once judgment is passed, then they go to a different prison, so yeah, they're just going through to be processed. Oh, this was smart. They attached this to his ear so that he had an anchor point, I guess. I'm not from America, so our prison system is different a lot. That's fair. That's absolutely fair. That would explain why you're using a CZ, because that's definitely not a standard American sidearm. It's one that I hear from gun enthusiasts is really good, but definitely not standard. I forget that this channel tends to pull people from Europe more than Europe and the rest of the world more than it does from the United States. I had my mind blown one time when I found out that someone was tuning in from Mexico City. And I don't know why that one shocked me so much, but it was like, wow. They just hopped on, saw some dude from Eastern United States painting little army men, and was like, I want to listen to this guy. Unfortunately, I haven't seen them since. What I've learned in the American prison system, I would not serve from prison guard. Yeah. My understanding is that it's a lot more dehumanizing in the American prison system because we have a for-profit prison system. And so is really not that good. But that's a very gross oversimplification. There's a ton of other issues with the American prison system that I am not privy to talk about because I am not well informed enough to talk about. There we go. Awesome flint axe. I don't know. Maybe I will make these metal. At least don't talk about it. We have some issues too. That's fair. I don't think any prison system is going to be perfect, given that it's a prison system, and our understanding of that whole thing is very recent. I guess I'll call it. Angie man. I need more black. There it is. But yeah, we've had our schools compared to prisons because of how tightly regulated things are, or should be. And while I don't necessarily agree with it, I can see where some of the parallels are being made by people who either are in, like, the not good schools, or who don't really know the difference and think that everything is awful. And then some where it is legitimately awful. I don't know. My country has longer prison history than your whole country's history. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah, America is still a young buck in a lot of ways, and we're already trying to find ways to destroy our government, but it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. Oh yeah, I forgot. This beak actually seems to have like a metal cap on it. So what I'm probably going to do with this is paint it to look like it's beaten iron. And that way it'll provide some more fun there. But yeah, I might actually make an orc army out of these guys. Like, I'm going to start with these guys, and then start printing more, because I have plenty of orc stuff that I can do it with. And, I think these guys are going to be the starters for it. And I'm probably never going to play, Age of Fantasy, or not Age of Fantasy, the Old World or Age of Sigmar. But I am very, very intrigued in playing Age of Fantasy with some friends, because Age of Fantasy has much different rules, much more simplified down rules, so I don't have to learn a completely new game system. And my understanding vis-a-vis one-page rules is that with the newest edition of Grimdark Future, is that they kind of streamlined it so you can actually play Age of Fantasy models versus Grimdark Future models, which seems silly and weird. Do you like version 3 of One Piece? I don't know. I haven't had a chance to play it. I read some of the stuff they did to it, and I thought they were really good decisions, because they all seemed to be addressing major complaints and issues people had with one-page rules. And like, off the bat, I can tell you one of my least favorite things about one-page rules was the incredible lethality of everything to every model. And that sounds weird to say, but like, I was playing Prime Brothers. You hate the new aircraft rule. It was possible to find before too. I thought that there were some discrepancies, and that's why people didn't, because I remember reading about that, and I knew that Age of Fantasy definitely had more melee than Grimdark Future, but I really don't know, because I never really played it. I actually don't know the Age of Fantasy army would lose most of the time. Yeah, that's what I was hearing. But like I said, I don't know it very well, because I've never played Age of Fantasy. I've only ever played Grimdark Future, and like theory crafted stuff for Age of Fantasy. I don't actually know what the new aircraft rule was, or what the new aircraft rule is. And thankfully, at least in my play group, it probably wouldn't come up, because I don't think anyone plays any aircraft. But still, I'd love to hear your feedback before I start getting some games in. All I know is that I used to play Prime Brothers, and I would always take a captain, which I would make Torgaradon, and a group of Eradication Brothers. And with his +1 to hit, they would always hit on 2s, and they would always have heavy meltas. You need to place it first before all other models, and move 3 feet to 30 inches to 3 feet. That's very odd. I would love to see the change log, or whatever you want to call it, the commentary on why they changed that. I know that in 40k and 10th edition, they're having a similar issue with the aircraft, that they did something with them to make them very useless or very difficult to play. Not sure what it is, but clearly it's not very good. Now, people can ignore it or prepare for its arrival. Yeah, I mean, aircraft do have a lot of things going for it. They got fly, they typically have better firepower, they're more durable, they're harder to hit. So I've yet to see either Games Workshop, and yet he has more. Either Games Workshop or one-page rules actually come up with a way to make flyers balanced within the game, which does kind of suck a little bit. You were an alpha tester for 3? So I'm assuming you had complaints about the aircraft thing and they were ignored because other people felt it was fine. Because OPA guy who made OPR wants to nerf them out of the game. I guess that's weird. I wonder why. Does he just not like the aircraft? Yeah, sorry, I'm a little slow on the uptake with reading because I'm trying to focus in on like painting this guy up, and so it's taking a lot of my attention. but I'm trying my best. We were told the only thing we're testing is grammar and rule wording. Okay, so your specific role wasn't actually in gameplay mechanics. It was, make sure everything reads properly. That's fair. I made some very questionable decisions on what to paint and what not to paint. When I was first painting these guys. So this entire thing, his entire skirt, since it's fur, is going to be painted brown, and I'll just paint over some of this other stuff like the teeth on a later day, on a later time. But yeah, I guess that makes sense because they don't want testers to kind of stumble over, step on each other's toes while they're trying to do things. I find it kind of strange that the other alpha testers and beta testers and whatnot didn't have anything to say about the aircraft stuff. But like you said, I suppose if they're trying to nerf them out of the game, then there you go, right? OPA doesn't want to hear about other people's opinions. Oh, well, that's unfortunate. What does OPA stand for? Pardon my ignorance, but my knowledge of one-page rules is very limited. Is it one-page admin? We tried to object to stuff, but we're told to shut up. Well, that's really discouraging to hear about. One page and on? Ah, well, that's no fun. Yeah, sorry to hear that, they were less than professional to the complaints. That's kind of a bummer. I remember reading recently, about the Exodite, the Warhammer EV. You don't like the guy? Well, that's fair. If he's treating you like that, I can understand why. But yeah, they had I don't remember if it was rumors or if it was an animator on the team, but the Exodite, the Warhammer TV miniseries about the oh, that's supposed to be brown, darn. About the Tau stealth people going into some parts of 1.0 Rules version 3 were written by my hand. Very cool. I'll have to give it a spin with my friends, and we'll report back what we feel about it. But yeah, I'm having a hard time formulating the words today. Yeah, the Exodite, the story that was done about the Tau stealth suit squad that went in to try and figure out who was wreaking havoc between the Imperium and the Tau Empire while they were trying to do like a diplomatic treaties or something. And it turned out it was an Eldar who was causing all the problems. And I think she ended up, the main character ended up in Kamara. You should be proud of it. You edited something and it got published. Apparently, as part of that video, I don't remember exactly what was said, but they had what was supposed to be like a military strategist come in and start looking over their shoulder with all of their writing. And even though they were supposed to be there to help them figure out some of the storyline and the behavior of the characters and whatnot, they kind of ruined it and caused it to stumble out the gate because, gosh, I don't remember exactly what it was. Like they for some reason had a Krieg soldier sneak up behind a stealth suit to assassinate it and kill it. They got rid of why the Manta was actually there in the video before it got, you know, blown out of the sky by the Emperor Titan, the Warlord Titan, because it was originally supposed to be evacuating, but they didn't like that, so instead it was just sitting there like a goon so it could be blown out of the sky by the Warlord Titan. They had a couple of silly things that they changed or modified or whatever just because they didn't agree with how the original creators wanted to make it. I think they mentioned that one thing wasn't realistic, I guess. And it was more like the guy who was the military strategist was just an employee of Games Workshop who had a severe bias towards the Imperium, and so he tried to make the Tau look as foolish as possible. And that was kind of a bummer to read about, because I did like the Exodite. I thought it was really well made. But I was kind of frustrated by some of the... Oh yeah, it was the Wraith Knights, or the Wraith Lords, how they moved. They were supposed to be considerably more agile, but because of this guy, he said, no, that's not realistic for giant mecha to be able to move with that much agility. And it's like, well, wow, that's dumb. So some of the neater things about the Exodite kind of got left on the cutting room floor because one guy felt the need to flex with the Imperium. And that was really disappointing to read. Though I have heard that the new Pariah Nexus video is looking really good so far. Like, the first episode came out and the first 20 minutes were out, and it apparently looks fantastic. And I think that's super cool. So hopefully that trend will continue. I think I'm just gonna shove this down his throat. But this is just so I don't have any weird lightness coming out of his mouth. So I will paint over this again with some fleshy tones later, but right now he's just gonna have a pink tongue. Or not a pink tongue, a black tongue. Hey, Swedish Muppet guy. If you're going to bed, have a good evening, aka Former. Get some rest, it sounds like you need it. These orcs are neat, and these orcs are really cool, but these orcs need to have less light in their mouth. So I'm gonna go ahead and paint inside their mouths with this black, so I can eventually paint like a red over it to give them fleshy tongues. And then I can continue on the path that I'm already working on. I'm getting to the point where I'm having to base coat a bunch of details, and it's really slowing down my work pace. My workflow, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, how's it going, Swedish Muppet guy? How are you doing? You can't even see that one, that's fine. Yeah, most of these are, yeah, they're fine, they're good, they're okay. I got 2 more to do, and then I can go back and work on some other stuff on it. Are these Age of Sigmar Savage Orcs even older? On a technicality, yes they are, because that's what they're released as now. But apparently, based on the box, these are Warhammer Fantasy Savage Orcs. Because the box was like from 2010. A gentleman who was part of the gaming community down here was selling a whole bunch of stuff. And I told him that I was just in awe of the fact that he had Warhammer Fantasy models. And I would love to get my hands on some, but I don't have any money. You're doing all right, having some stomach pains, but that is draining a lot of energy, but other than that, okay. Well, I'm sorry to hear that your stomach is bothering you. I've been dealing with some pretty hefty fatigue today, and I actually didn't go to work because I almost fell down the stairs while trying to go downstairs to feed my pets. So I just kind of dragged myself over to the computer and put in for a substitute at my job and took the day. And then went back upstairs and slept for like 4 more hours. But yeah, yes, these are technically Age of Sigmar Savage Orcs, but they are from an older generation. These come from Age of Fantasy, or not Age of Fantasy, Warhammer Fantasy Savage Orcs. Because the box was made in 2010. And the dude was trying to get rid of them because he didn't want them anymore. And I was like, I'd love to have them, but I don't have any money. And after a while, he was like, you know what? I want to pay it forward. I've had a lot of help from a lot of people over the years, so you can have them, just don't let anyone really know. And very clearly, I'm breaking curfew here with that, but I'm pretty sure you're not going to go tattle on me. Thank you. I think they look great too, and I hope my paint job is going to do them justice, because they're too cool a model for me to ruin. Right now, they've just been zenithaled and base coated, so there's not a whole lot going on, but there's going to be a lot more depth added to them as I get a chance to really go to town with them after giving them all their base coats and shades. And then I'll get to do the fine details. My goal with these is to make them look as good as I can while still keeping that, you know, old school aesthetic, because I want them to look like they almost like they came out of an old catalog, you know what I mean? but I'm not going to try and do that ultra-saturated heavy metal style. I just don't want to make them grimdark, because everything I've painted is grimdark. And that's a little bit one note. This is my chance to branch out. Nobody here knows the dude or knows this happened, so I don't think breaking curfew is going to be an issue. Yeah, exactly. That's why I don't feel too bad telling the tale. I was actually really kind of kicking myself because there was one there was an HQ model that he had that I was interested in simply because it was an HQ model, and I kind of wanted to have enough of these guys to like put them on a display board and make it look like a full army. And when he came by with the models, he gave me the 2 boxes of Savage Orcs and Black Orcs, which, don't get me wrong, is freaking ridiculous and awesome. But he also had Grom the Paunch, and I think it was the Grom the Paunch with the wolf chariot and everything. And it was like, man, I wish I could have had that model to be a cool HQ. Even though I found out later it's a Goblin HQ, I don't care. It was just a neat model. And then I started looking on eBay to see if I could get it, and I found out that, good lord, that thing is selling for several $100s in beat-up form. Yeah, he did not. That is true. He'd be appreciated by us because he gave you some really cool minis to paint for our enjoyment. Yeah, that's kind of my thought. Is I don't want to say I was going to monetize this, but I definitely look forward to giving you guys something new to look at with the painting, because you've kind of watched me go through a lot of the same stuff recently. Okay, that's all bone. That's all bone. Oh, there's some metal bits. And fortunately, I'm probably going to go back to some of that stuff because I have a lot of semi-finished projects that need to be finished, or else I'm going to feel real bad about them. Yeah, orcs are the best. I am very much hoping that I can start making like my 1,000-point orc army for 40k. I want to do more orcs. They're always super fun to look at. They're always super fun to paint. There is literally no negative to orcs. They're the best. Okay, so that's metal that's been hammered on. I can't tell what that's supposed to be. I think it's wood carving. Most of this looks like it's just wood carving that's been whittled out. Those in specific, though, look like metal plates that were nailed on, based on the fact that they look like plates and have nails in them. Everything else on here looks like bone or wood, so it's going to stay bone or wood. But yeah, have you ever seen Grom the Paunch? He's such a kitty little goblin. I love him. And so I want to paint him. And I can't find any good STLs of him. I found better, like, more high-detailed STLs, but I don't want high-detailed. I want that awful little fat dude that they made a sculpt of, because he's exactly that. He's an awful little fat dude. Actually, that's not a rock. That is definitely supposed to be stone of some kind. And don't get me wrong, the STLs are beautiful. They're really high quality. They look like if Games Workshop wanted to bring back Grom the Paunch to fit into Age of Sigmar versus how he looked in Warhammer Fantasy. But in Warhammer Fantasy, he was just a shitty little fat dude. Let me see if I can find him. Grom the Paunch. And I think they actually did bring him back in the... yeah, they did. They brought him back in Total War 3. And he looks like you would expect a fat guy to look. And it's not as fun. Like, it's still a great looking mini, but it's not as fun. Let me get some pictures here, so you can see the evolution and de-evolution of Grom the Paunch. Yeah, those are cool minis. Those are all cool minis. Those are not what I'm looking for. Oh, why are you so tiny? No, I need that to be massive. Okay, one moment. Grom the Paunch of Misty Mountain. Yeah, that probably would have gotten them in trouble. Those are the newer minis. There we go. There's the lad. Okay, so... let's go. Give me a second. Window capture. No. Yes. So... there he is. There is Grom the Paunch. This is the concept art for Grom the Paunch way back when. And I think it's great. I think it's got a lot of character. It's got a lot of personality. I think that's a fantastic looking piece of art. Don't get me wrong. And like, here's Grom the Paunch from Warhammer 3, which again, great looking model. Looks great for the aesthetic that they were going for in Warhammer 3 Total Wars, right? Or whatever you want to call it. And it's like, cool, great, awesome. Here's the little shitbag when he was released in like 2nd edition or 3rd edition, whichever edition of Warhammer Fantasy he came from. I love that model. Yeah, he looks like he'd fit in the Goblin Kingdom in The Hobbit, exactly. But this one just looks like an angry child, and that's why I'm all for it. And I want that model, and I had the chance to get that model, but I was too dumb to just ask. And then they've got like this Thunderwolf Cavalry one, or whatever you want, not Thunderwolf, whatever you want to call it. And they got this model, right? And this is the one that I'm pretty sure the dude had. It came with the old metal Grom the Paunch, and then it came with his little standard bearer, and 2 Great Wolves, and the chariot. And it's like, man, I could have painted that. But I can't now, because altogether, those things are like $200 on eBay. And I don't have that kind of money. So unfortunately, no Grom the Paunch for me. But, you know, lesson learned. Next time someone has, you know, a Warhammer Fantasy Orc and Goblin sale, get Grom the Paunch. Are people allowed to copy it exactly? Yeah, no, they are not. He's still copyrighted under Games Workshop. So they're not supposed... I'll put it this way, they're not supposed to. And I haven't found a model maker that has. So I'm not going to tempt the fates by like trying to beg people to do that. Okay, let's see. I think that's all of them. So I guess I can go back and start... Whoops. I guess I can go back and I can start adding in some lighter shading in some places. Now, in my mind... Oh, wait, no. I know what I need to do. Now that I have my smaller brush, I can start working on the big stabba guy. Now, like I said, I found some great not him models of him. You know what I mean? Let me see if I can get this to work, because this is going to be me opening another app. Let's go into Cheetu Box. I downloaded the STL just to have it, because I think, like you said, he'd just be a great boss character for a D&D campaign. But unfortunately, it doesn't have the same charm as the old Grom. And I say that with the knowledge that it's actually, like, unironically, a fantastic model. Seeing as it's possible to 3D scan minis and then throw the scan into a program and prep it to be printed, there is actually someone who's doing that, but the way they're going about it, they're doing their best, and it's taking them a lot of effort, but it still comes out looking muddy as sin. So here's the STL of Grom the Paunch that I found. And like I said, it's a great STL. This is a fantastic looking model. It looks exactly like the concept art and exactly like the character in Total War 3, but he's not an angry little round thing anymore. You know what I mean? He's just a dude. He's just a fantasy dude. And so yeah, not quite as good. But yeah, there's a guy whose name I'm forgetting on the purple site that is doing that. He's actually taking... It doesn't have the same personality exactly. He's taking like whole sprues and individually 3D scanning the bits to help people with kit bashing. And I think that's super admirable, but unfortunately all the pieces come out looking very muddy. And so, while I am thoroughly impressed with that guy's work ethic and what he's been able to do, it's not quite there yet. So hopefully, someday, we'll get there. Someday there'll be consumer-grade cameras that will allow for, like, scanning of that level, and then someone will take their old Warhammer Fantasy and Rogue Trader STLs, and we'll just have this new glut of amazingly loyal old school models, because I want to get my hands on some of like the original Space Marines and just scale them up so they would fit in a proper like heroic scale world that 40K is in right now. because some of them are just so dang charming. I did not finish painting his arm, and I'm a little bit embarrassed by that. I guess I'm gonna have to go back with some green paint and get that little gap in his skin. But yeah, like the old ones, because of that slightly cartoony bend they have to them, they have so much more charm than the new ones. And it sucks because the new ones are beautiful. The new ones are like great painting pieces. The old ones are like great game pieces. That's kind of the that's kind of where I've drawn the line. Because they're small enough that they work as game pieces and they clearly convey what they're supposed to convey, but they're obviously not to that same level of detail, but they still look fan-freaking-tastic. I think I'm gonna need to get a better brush than what I have, because this brush is kind of not good for what I'm using it for. It's definitely starting to show its limits. But that's okay. Oh, there's some dry spots on the Staba that I can definitely paint down a bit. And yeah, eventually this is all going to get like a couple of dry brushes and the like to really sell that this is a huge piece of stone that they hewed out into a big pointy bit. And like I said, I don't want to just trash talk Games Workshop and just be like, they're not making things like they used to, because they're clearly following customer demand, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I'd like to see more goofy shit. Teeth. That's what I was gonna do. I was gonna do teeth. Let's do some teeth. I've got... Wait a minute. Yeah, I've got some buff, which is going to be put on a lot of the bones and a lot of the teeth, and then I'm probably going to work up from that to another color for the teeth on these guys. That's the plan. And to do this, I'm actually going to go back to my Winsor & Newton for the more precise brushing, more precise strokes, and hopefully this will end up looking okay. You're playing some Forza just to what? You zoned out a little bit? That's fine. This is not... There is not going to be a test at the end of the day. You know what I mean? At the end of the lesson. I'm just kind of rambling. And if that's helping people relax, then cool. Like, that's my whole thing. I am purely here for your guys' enjoyment to take as you will. And I can definitely understand the feeling of zoning out to playing a racing game. I got really bad into Vampire Survivor a few months ago, and I realized that you don't have to focus that hard on that game once you get to a certain level with your characters. And so it got to a point that once the chaos got too much, I would actually start zoning out. Like my eyes would unfocus and I would stop paying attention to what's going on. Vampire Survivor. It's a cheapy little like 8-bit looking game, and you get bonuses and weapon buffs as you play it. And if you can last, I think, 30 minutes, then eventually death just comes in from nowhere and kills you because you've basically beaten the level. But it gets so chaotic about midway through that my eyes just start like purposefully unfocusing and I go wall-eyed and then I fall asleep. It was a cheap mobile game for a while, and then it ended up going on Steam, and it actually has Twitch integration. I found out about it through another user named Rennie right here, and I watched him play it, and the way the Twitch integration works is every level you're given 3 random upgrades and you have to choose one. And so Twitch can decide, you know, which upgrade you choose, and they can also decide, you know, what horrible thing could happen to you in the next 2 minutes or something. You're honestly in the mood to just get some cleaning done tomorrow and then invite some friends over for drinks and shit? Sounds like a good time to me. That's what I would like to do, but I got work. Though, honestly, something fun I do get to do tomorrow is we're going to have our first meeting of the Tabletop Gaming Club at work. Well, at school. So, a bunch of kids are hopefully going to be able to make it. And, we can do some tabletop gaming with them. because apparently a couple of the teachers that are involved in it with me are getting endlessly pestered by the students when is tabletop gaming club starting. And I've been so out of it, I haven't thought about it. So they all just said, we'll go with Friday. So either that or the opposite. You'll just do some soap, cleaning, light a scented candle, and have a beer. Both of those sound like completely valid options to me. Whatever you need to do to have a good end to your week. I have decided to paint for a bit. Get some models printed. Possibly paint some of those models on stream some other day. And then, you know, relax. Though this weekend, my wife and I have a convention to go to so she can table and sell some of her art. And hopefully, it will be a good one because she has been feeling really bad about how slow the market has been recently. So some validation would be really nice about now. Next thing. You're not sure? You want to finish your friend's Trigon as well? Yeah, that would be cool. I've got some Tyranids that I still need to finish. I've gotten them mostly done, so they're tabletop playable, but like, I still need to actually finish them. They need some basing, they need some more detail work done, and so hopefully I'll be able to get to that. Okay, so remarkably, dry brushing on this is working. So I don't actually have to do a whole lot because it's out of order, or it's out of focus, isn't it? There we go. It's not beautiful, but it's working. And that's all that matters for these guys, given that they are literally just frontline troops. Yeah, it's a small convention up about an hour's drive, hour and a half drive. But, it's her last real big chance to make any kind of money before the holiday seasons. So we're hoping that she's able to do some business up there. Okay, let's go ahead and get that. And I think eventually I have to get this guy's teeth, don't I? Let's do that. Yeah, no, I think I've mentioned it many a time before, but my wife tables at conventions and sells her art and her graphic novels there. And by and large, she does pretty well, but this year has been like a really bad year for it. And it's just because of like the downturn in the economy and that kind of thing. So it's kind of affected her ability to pay some bills, and she's really self-conscious about it, which is completely understandable. But you can't put the blame on her. It's not her fault that the economy tanked, unless she's hiding something from me. So, I'm just hoping that she can end the year on a high note, make some good money, get more people's eyes on her stuff, and just in general feel better going into the holiday season. And now he's got the yellow teeth. He looks properly British. That was a terrible accent. I'm sorry for those who had to listen to it. But anyway, we're gonna put that over there. Clean that out. Get another one of you guys hooked up on here. And soon I'm gonna have to go. I think this is gonna be the last one I do because I'm cooking dinner tonight. And that's gonna be... that requires me to kind of be up there and doing so at about 5:30. So I'm gonna continue working on this guy and getting the bones on him painted up. And then I'm gonna have to call it quits. Which is crazy to me because it feels like I woke up and then, what's for dinner? I am making a chicken tortellini, or a tortellini with chicken Alfredo. Which is going to be a slightly different take on a recipe that I found for a slow cooker I had when I was in college, which was supposed to be like spicy sausage tortellini with spinach and onion. But we tried that before, and it wasn't exactly my wife's favorite thing, and it was explicitly the sausage. So we're going to try it with chicken this time. You have yet to buy a slow cooker? They can be worth it. Mine was one of those gimmicky hybrid ones that was supposedly like a slow cooker, a steamer, a this, a that. And I still have it, but it just feels like a waste of time to put on because I have a gas stove now. So the point of using like an electric slow cooker, just, it feels like it takes too long to do anything with it. So instead, I'm going to be using the gas stove and the honestly wonderful pots and pans that I have that I got as part of the wedding. So that should take me considerably less time to get ready. Because basically, outside of cutting the chicken, I can just kind of turn the gas stove on, let it sit for like 5 minutes as it heats up, and then I'm good to go, as opposed to waiting for what feels like an hour and a half for the dang slow cooker to heat up. You just put a wire mesh into a pot with a bit of water at the bottom, and then steam stuff that way. I mean, that's pretty much how you're supposed to do it. But in all honesty, I think rice cookers are worth it just because having a big pot that's dedicated to cooking rice makes life so much easier. Especially when you get one of the ones that are specifically meant for like Japanese rice cooking or Chinese rice cooking with the Hoosits, the lid. So it's not just a hot pot, it actually has like a hinged lid and like a little steaming tray inside it. Those ones are the best. They let you do all sorts of cool stuff with those. Get his nails, I guess, because Orcs got to have terrible nails. Eventually, I will do this lad's jewelry and his eyes in greater detail, but right now, I'm just trying to get a little bit rice cookers on the Christmas wish list, as it should be. Can't go wrong with a good rice cooker. We actually just ended up buying a new one because the one we had was kind of garbage. And it was only made worse when we realized that we had been forgetting to clean a part out of it and it had grown mold. And my wife is allergic to mold. So we immediately tossed that thing. And then we ended up buying a much nicer one from Amazon. And that one's been holding up real nice ever since. And then it's just gift cards to IKEA. Well, that makes sense. IKEA is like the starter home place. So these guys are looking pretty rough right now, which is kind of the point. And a kill rig as well, not gonna lie. That's fair. I feel bad asking for Warhammer stuff on my Christmas lists, mainly because most of my friends aren't in a financial situation to get me that stuff. And the only people that are my wife's parents. And I don't want to be like, hey, can you spend $80 on buying this one plastic mini for me? So I tend to not do that. I found some other art supply stuff that I didn't feel bad asking them for, which was like resin and mixers and whatnot. And that was okay. But, you know, it feels weird. Which it really shouldn't, because it's a hobby, right? You wouldn't feel bad asking for, you know, a new set of golf clubs or something. But because this one has been infantilized by people older than us, it's just like, you shouldn't ask for that. That's kid stuff. Why are you doing kid stuff? It's like, you know, adults had to make the kid stuff. You really don't have a list. It's just me talk about it a lot and people snapping it up. Yeah, that seems like the more practical way to go about it. Okay. That's about as far as I'm getting with that tonight. So, I think that's gonna be it for me. Thank you for joining me. This was a little shorter a stream. It looks like it only went for about an hour and 15 minutes, but I need to go do stuff. This is the last time I'm gonna be able to stream for the week, because tomorrow I'm not gonna be back home till like 5:30, and over the weekend I'm gonna have that thing. So hopefully I will see you guys on Monday. Thank you for tuning in. And actually, wait, no. You know what I ought to do? I keep forgetting about this until I don't. I need to do a raid. That's what I need to do. So let's go to, not Switch, let's go to Twitch. Speaking of, one of my goals is still very much to go ahead and get a capture card so I can do the, so I can stream Super Mario RPG. Okay, well, it looks actually like he's about to finish up. But you know what? I'll raid into him just for kicks and giggles anyway. So I'm going to raid into Mr. Rene right here, because he's a cool guy. Rene right here. Oh, he said Hixie and Bunka are good peeps. Are either of them online? Hixie. Hixie 666? Yeah, let's go raid Hixie 666. That sounds like a good time. One moment. Hixie 666. There we go. We're gonna raid into Hixie 666. So again, thank you for joining me. And I hope you have a good time with this other person over there. Have a good rest of your evening, and bye-bye.